Welcome to Merle's Pearls of Business Wisdom, where I, Merle M. Singer, the relationship miracle worker, talk about all things relationship and how they impact the workplace and maybe the whole world. Today I have a wonderful guest. Her name is Suhein Beck, and I met her in a writing workshop. And she was in a workshop because she's writing this book. And the book was very enticing to me because anybody that's, what was it, four
Four-part.
parts, 4 books. I showed her my book. I said, this is as thick as it gets. And so I find it, and she talked about their Circassian, her people, which I wasn't familiar with that terminology, and the value of honor. And we've just been talking about it, and I'm mesmerized. And I say, wait, other people have to be mesmerized too. So, Suhein Beck, first of all, they can reach you at suheinbeck.com, right? Am I not correct?
It's actually Suhein, SUHEIN.com. So
Suhein.
yeah, my website is Suhein.com. My
Suhein.
YouTube channel is Suhein Beck. And I'm on all social media from
Yeah.
LinkedIn to Instagram to Facebook. So it's pretty easy to get a hold of me.
So let's go back. Is there a way to grow courage after trauma?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think almost in a sense that small traumas are necessary to start growing the muscle and preparing both physically. There's a cocktail inside your body that is created when you are in a dangerous situation. There's a rush of adrenaline and cortisol and whatnot. And so the body's ability to adjust to that is necessary, and it's probably a good idea to do it incrementally rather than in large dosages as well. As part of my research for my book, I've been diving deeply into that concept as well. So the concept of trauma with the body and the physicality of it, and that the body keeps score, and that, it is necessary to physically extract traumas out of the body. And so, as a relationship counselor, you would know that, it's something that you have to do with the people that you're working with, or, working
Well,
in therapy.
it's true. I talked Shirzad Shirzad Shamin um, talks about positive intelligence, and he's the one that says that these the psychological issues that you have to deal with, like trauma and other issues, you do in an incremental basis. That you have to learn with the small little things, and you get in the habit of dealing with these traumas or situations in a particular way. He has his technique, but it's that incremental thing that you share with him that I think
Right.
I'm saying yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a muscle. So if we think of, the ability to deal with fear, and, a lot of people, are dealing with paralysis of life, that they're afraid to fail. They're afraid to start a new endeavor. They're afraid to go out of the door. There are extreme cases. So when that fear paralyzes you in any way, then there are little atomic steps that you can take in order to deal with it.
But would you be so kind as to tell your story about your father and that first experience? I think that's
Yeah.
important.
So as a Circassian, my people, we come from the North Caucasus Mountains, which is between Greece to our west, Russia to our north, Turkey to our south, and Asia to our right, okay, to the east.
Yeah.
So our mountains are sacred. And we used to say, only our mountains are our friends, because they were the ones that helped protect us. However, we also fought a war of 100 plus years against Russia. So if you can all just put that in perspective, 100 years, a century of war. Who does that? What kind of a people would be the type that can fight off Russia for 100 years?
I want to know about the 8-year-old.
Okay, so that is who I come from. I come from that people that had no fear to fight an empire for 100 years until we finally lost in 1864 with the modernization of weaponry. Okay, so that is my background. My grandparents were the exiled. They dispersed into Europe and the Middle East. My parents were temporary, homeland of Syria. I happened to be born in Syria. And then the war in 1967, the revolution of 1971, we were constantly refugees and dealing with wars constantly. So we settled finally in New Jersey in 1971. There, we started our life thinking, hey, American dream, we've got it, stability, security, safety now. And then, if you've all seen the musical West Side Story, and there's a scene in there when there are gangs that are fighting on West Side and the story, and then they are singing to each other, "Welcome to America," and the gangs are fighting. We settled in New Jersey in 1971. So when we finally settled, we saved enough money to buy a small restaurant, kind of deli, and then a house above it. And we settled into an area that was not friendly to foreigners. And it doesn't matter what skin color you are, because that area happened to be white. We are white. And yet it still did not matter. So when racism is going to occur, it's going to occur across the board. Like, this is, something that, I say to people, and they're like, well, why would you be, a victim of racism, in that? And I'm like, there's no restriction on that. Anyway, so we were the targets of a little amateur mafia gang. And they were hoodlums, and they were, not as sophisticated as the Italian mafias in New York at that time, but they were still very obnoxious and very difficult. So we were dodging bullets and bombs and arson and poisoning our dogs. And I watched my brother's car blow up in front of our house. We had to get professionally trained dogs. We had to, back in the 1970s, there was no such thing as like home security alarm systems. However, we were able to get some, and they were little doorknob handles that had a cord on them. And my job every night was to go to every single doorway and every single window and to turn them on so that we conserve the battery. Any jiggle on the doorknob would set the shrieking alarm off. And do you have any idea how scary that was? Because, on the East Coast, the doors are downstairs by a stairwell. And, it's a scary thing for a young 6, 7, 8-year-old girl. Anyway, so one night we were just sitting around, and my father said, Suhein, go get some ice cream from downstairs from the restaurant.
You didn't explain that at first, but your house was on top of your restaurant.
Right.
Okay,
And so
continue.
I just didn't want to go downstairs, because I know that the intruders that were trying to kill us have more easily penetratable means to access downstairs in the restaurant than upstairs. So if I were to go downstairs, then I could be facing, a face-to-face confrontation with one of them. And this was a normal occurrence. So I was avoiding it by doing chores and cleaning and trying to look busy, that I was, doing something important. And my father figured it out. And then he pulled me to the stairwell. And then he took a knife from the kitchen and basically showed me how to hold it in such a way. There's a wrong way and a right way to hold a knife. And the normal way is if like you're cutting is not the way. So you basically hold it like it's a dagger in such a way that it's facing inwards towards your wrist. And from there, you can basically kill. So I don't know how old I was, 7, 8, or 9 years old, because I know I was less than 10 years old, because that's when we moved to California. So any time between my 7, 8, and 9-year-old self is when this occurrence happened. And I remember that my dad practiced with me a couple motions of quick self-defense and whatnot. And that's when I felt empowered enough that, okay, this is going to happen. So I was facing the worst case scenario. I was empowered. I was entrusted by my father that, yeah, you can do this. And you're small and you're able to maneuver in and under and over and, oh, okay, yeah. So it was like Dumbo with the magic feather, that I was given a tool, something to allow me to believe that I was stronger, the David and Goliath, whatever. Like I had something that I can outmaneuver and outsmart the enemies. So
I want to just say, what I think was wonderful about your father was that he didn't say, "Oh, don't be afraid. It's okay." He recognized your fear and he said, I understand that you have a fear. This is how you deal with it.
right,
And
exactly.
he empowered you. That's powerful.
Yeah. And he entrusted me with that.
Yes.
And so it was such an honorable thing, like, oh, wow, he gave me this, projection of strength and whatnot. So I did, and I went downstairs and I created a relationship with a knife. And I knew that I was going to be prepared. So
Did you
that
get the ice cream?
I did. I did.
Okay.
I did. Of course I did. Yeah. And my father, when I came back up, he didn't make it into a grandiose thing. He normalized it. And he said, okay, so next time there will be another situation and you'll be more prepared. And there will be, and you will always have this. So you will always be prepared. Like it wasn't like, good job, honey. Yes, which is a very American way. There's an overindulgence of this positivity that builds a fake confidence with American children. And this is documented, by the way, in books like Dumbing Down Our Kids and whatnot, and what's happening with the school systems. There's a fake positivity of Johnny and Janie, no. You earn your respect. You earn your confidence. You earn your honor in your place in society. And that's what I learned, is that my confidence and my ability to overcome situations is as a result of that constant practice of, as Eleanor Roosevelt said, doing something outside of your comfort every single day. And damn it, I do. There's always something that I am learning outside of my comfort zone. So that was the beginning. And, this became so normalized that later, when we moved to California, to finally get rid of and escape that whole nightmare of, being the target of those terrorists, then it became, normalized when we bought a 7-Eleven in Whittier, California, which was on the crossroads of Santa Fe Springs and Pico Rivera and Whittier. And, we were dealing with Latin gangs. And at that point, then I knew, same thing, position yourself, be prepared, have weapons everywhere. Like I had a meat beater in one corner. I had Gerber jars of food, like the glass jars, situated and positioned in different places that if I were cornered as a 14, 15, 16-year-old girl and blonde, long hair in the middle of Whittier at that time in the 80s, also not acceptable. I would work an entire 8-hour shift by myself in a 7-Eleven, selling beer, which is illegal. But I carried a gun. But I also and I showed it off. They knew I was loaded. And there was this thing that we developed, and that was respect. And that's what I discovered as a young girl, is that gangs, mafias, terrorist organizations, whatever organization or association that we human animals need, it is so that we are in the herd, both in the collective as well. We are heard. So it's H-E-R-D and it's H-E-A-R-D. I just came up with that right now. I want to coin that. So that we are not alienated, and that we need to be felt and heard through an ecosystem and a chamber outside of ourselves, so that, we gain respect. So I knew that. And so I dealt with those gang members with that level of respect of, machismo, which worked very well with the Latin gangs. And then they treated me like their hermanita, their little sister. So I discovered that at a young age. Later in my first adult career outside of my family business, which I couldn't wait to get out of, I went into property management in Seattle, and I became a really good property manager. And in property management, the better you are, the worse the properties you will be assigned. So I was assigned properties that were really performing way below the red line. And I went in to evict gangs and prostitutes and drug rinks and all of that. So, of course, dealing with gangs was first nature. I don't even want to say second nature. It was first nature to me. So I would, and this was Samoan gangs. So I would just walk up to the homes and the apartments and talk to them like human beings and say, look, this is my job. I have to get you out. So either I pay an attorney and put more money in their pocket so they can buy another BMW, or I can pay you and give you the money instead that I would pay them. I can give you the money on the back end through your security deposit, through, the rent that I, get, and I can't charge double rent. So I'll rent to somebody else real fast, get them out, won't charge you, you'll have first and last month's rent. Let me help you. Let me make your life easier. This is not the way to go. You're going to end up with an eviction. You're not going to be able to buy cars. You're not going to be da, 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 da. And they were so shocked and dumbfounded that who is this white girl that is coming in, giving me a choice, helping me decide my own fate, and giving me the respect. And she sees it from the perspective of the street, of the hood, because that's where I'm from. I knew that. Yeah, I come from an aristocratic family from the Caucasus Mountains, which I do, by the way. But look at the circumstances. Look at the circumstances that allowed me a wider lens to see this incredible side of humanity that I could bridge with them. And later they saved my life too. I was driving one night and I was just sitting at a red light and a drunk driver came and hit me and took off. And somebody recognized my car from 2 cars behind, and they went after the guy, found him, beat him up, called the police. So needless to say, I absolutely believe that incremental traumas or incremental circumstances of life can either put you on the right path of becoming a very empowered person, or it could eat you up alive into a perpetual state of anxiety and stress and paralysis. And I was fortunate enough, like you said, that I had a father that did give me that in trust and, enlightenment to, no, this is how you deal with it. It's a muscle, you're going to exercise it.
And you have a family heritage of honor. And so this respect that you were showing these gang members was a part of showing them being honor, respecting them, saying, here we are equal, we are each people.
Mhm.
And and the value, it's more than value. It seems an appropriate way to, I mean, if we could, all the people in the world think in those terms, in understanding, oh, these are even enemies, and well, why are they enemies, and what is it about them, and what do they need, and what can I offer, and it's just a matter of respect and being honorable.
That is the core of who we are as Circassians. That is the core. So, like, we are ingrained in us that if our enemy were to knock on our door and even show any level of hunger or, need of help, the minute we open the door, they are a guest. They are not an enemy. And they are treated on the same level as a dignitary would be, that this is now sanctuary. I am now entrusted with a guest, and I respect them and honor them into my home. And through that process is how Fyodor Dostoevsky and Tolstoy and some of the great writers, the Russian writers, came into the Caucasus and were blown away at what they saw. And then they started writing our perspective of things, which mesmerized the Russian literature for a while. So yeah, it is. It's a secret weapon.
But what's so interesting is that I just last Thursday, I gave a keynote speech for professional women Toastmasters, and I gave it on how to deal with difficult people, which is in essence what you've been talking about with the gang members and stuff. And my special sauce, that special secret is to give that person a compliment. I mean, if you're working
Yes.
with somebody and they're a real pain in the neck and whatever, and you see them every day and it's driving you crazy and it's making you feel miserable. So why be a victim when you can just give that person it doesn't have to be, it can be totally insignificant. I like your shoelaces. But it must be real. You
Right.
must really
Yeah.
believe it.
Genuine. Yes.
Yes, authentic. And over a period of time, the relationship changes. It changes the environment of the entire office.
Yes. In our writing class, you mentioned this, and it
Yeah,
was beautiful when you told that story.
yeah.
And it was just, yeah, the ripple effect.
It's astounding. So clearly we agree.
But from different reasons. Like, you're looking at this from the relationship side. I'm looking at it from the survivalist side. I am just a survivor. Like, somebody introduced me once when I was giving a keynote speech, and twice actually. I'll give you an example. And I did not give them any of my bio information at all. They did their own research on me. And shockingly, one gal introduced me as, this is the one person that I know that no matter how many times she falls, She gets up, blah, 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 blah. This was the CEO forum from the Small Business Administration. This was all the millionaires club. It was in Costa Mesa. It was a breakfast, Christmas breakfast. And I was the keynote. And he introduced me as the unsinkable Molly Brown. I had never even heard of this. I had no clue. I remember Doris Day with some kind of a movie like that, you know, as a Western or something like that, you know, and I remember her cute outfits, but I didn't recognize what that was all about. And
Right.
originally, the original Molly Brown was actually from the Molly Brown from the Titanic.
Yes. Yes.
Thinkable.
Yes.
So only recently did I connect the dots on that. But what you're saying is like, you're looking at this from the relationship standpoint of making an office better, making your work environment better, or your, you know, internal intra relationships. Trust me, Merle, I only know this from the survivalist because that has been the overpowering crowd of my life is survival, because my family and I have been refugees, exiles, you know, victims, targeted, kidnappings, bombings, you name it, throughout our life. And so for us, it was survivalism.
Yes, on a bigger scale. It's also survivalism in the office, but it's clearly on a smaller scale. But so that reminds me, we've been talking, but we haven't mentioned your book, and the only reason we have to mention your book is because people will say, "What is on her wall?" I think you need to explain to people how to organize and write a book.
Oh, I don't know. Ask me in a year and a half to 2 years
Excuse me, 4
if it
books.
works. Yeah, if it works.
It'll work. It'll
Why
work.
do you say that?
Uh, I have a colleague that says, because I have a feeling that it will, well, okay, I can even back it up. First comes the feeling, I suppose. And then I back it up with the facts. The facts is you're the unsinkable Molly Brown. So you're just going to do it. That's all.
Your
And
mouth. You
and
got
yeah, I don't know about the timing, whatever goal we have, we don't always make it at that time, but setting that goal makes us make it.
I hope so. Yeah. Well, I get emotional about it. The book is called Shades of Honor.
That's the other reason, by the way, is you're emotional about it. Shades of Honor. Take a minute. Take a
Yeah,
minute.
it means everything. It's all of my ancestors that drowned in the Black Sea when the boats were sabotaged, when they purposely drowned them. The million of us that was in the first and largest genocide in modern times in European soil. It is for the constancy of all the survivors. You know, it is for them as well. And I have to show you another outline.
Okay.
Here's another outline. So this is my writer's studio.
Okay. Oh, that's lovely. Actually,
So all of these images
yes.
have something to do with the book.
Um,
So for example, remember when I told you about the mountains?
yes.
The
I
highest, the highest mountain in Europe is Mount Elbrus. That is our mountain, Mount Elbrus. That is the mountain that Prometheus was chained to in the myth of the fire. So this is Mount Elbrus. But when we lost our mountains, our world turned upside down. But we still have the connection.
That's awesome. Who did that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we have the first.
I mean, the art of it. The
Yeah, I don't know. I found all of these, and the first domestication of horses was in the steppes of our region. And we were the first to wear pants. And while the Middle Ages and like years after, where they would all be wearing dresses and thobes and robes and, the Greek togas and things like that, they would call us savages, those savages that wear pants. Well, why did we wear pants? Because we were on horses.
horses.
It's called chafing. So we were the first to domesticate horses and to wear pants, and the Greeks were shocked. So the concept of the Amazons, I'll get back to the Amazons, just wait. And then we had to fight for our freedom.
Yes.
And here are my superheroes. Can you see? These are superheroes
Yes.
that are holding knowledge up. And of course, this is the world map, like how
Right.
far we've gone. And that's the silencing, the psychologically demented of the silencing. Of course, there's the beautiful love story. Of course, there's the music. Of course, there's the spiritual. There's the exotic and erotic. There's the mother with 2 children. There is, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful.
Up higher. I have to see up higher. Okay.
So that is the calligraphy of in the name of God and the most gracious, most merciful. This is a woman in the tree of life.
Yes.
This is a Banksy with a little lonely girl with the little red balloon.
Right.
And of course, this is the Banksy terrorist that wants to just give you a red rose and flowers. So that's another outline of the whole book.
Okay. Yeah.
So speaking of the Amazons, just real quick, let me pull up some of my books here. So the Greeks had the mythology of the Amazons, right? Well, guess what? They weren't myths.
Aha. Aha.
I'm an Amazon. It was so as young children, as Circassians, we were taught to ride horses at 3 years old, at 4 years old, so girls and boys. When you put a girl on a horse at 3, 4 years old and show her exactly how to use weapons and arrows and, the strength between man and woman is equal on a horse.
Really?
So yes. So when you are on a horse, your strength is equal. It is the equalizer. So when the Greeks,
Like guns, actually.
exactly. So when we were trained, because it's all hands on deck, when we were fighting the Russians for 100 years, it was all hands on deck.
Yes.
So girls, boys, we all fought. So we were trained as such. We were trained to be warriors. So when the Greeks came along the ports of across the Black Sea, they were shocked to see the Amazons. The word Amazon, actually, Maza is one of the most common names for Circassian girls. It means moon.
Means what?
Moon.
Moon.
Maza means
Okay.
moon. So see, Maza is my moon, and that's one of the most common names. Maza or see Maza. And back then, the men would worship the sun, the women would worship the moon because the moon was aligned with their cycle.
Okay.
So when we would call each other Maza, Maza, you know, the Greeks picked up on them that our names were Maza.
Okay.
It was the lady of the forest. It was, and so they were shocked when they saw women warriors. So their soldiers, and we all wore gold belts, like our Circassian costume has a gold medal belt. That became the symbol of mythology of Wonder Woman.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
So any of the Spartan heroes, the Greeks that wanted to come and try and conquer, they couldn't unless they were able to kill Amaza and steal her belt and show it off.
Interesting.
So that became a huge part of the mythology. Well, today you met a real Amazon.
Amazon.
I'm
Yay.
100%. Bread and bread, like all the way through. And so that is, you know, the warrior women.
Interesting.
And only recently, so as part of my book,
Right.
okay, this is all part of our research.
Right.
This is another book, Let Our Fame Be Great by Oliver Bullough.
Yeah.
So as part of the book that I'm writing, it is basically a modern day love story that goes back in time because the modern day heroine goes to therapy. She goes,
Perfect.
she goes to therapy, and that's when she discovers that she has had generational trauma. And what is generational trauma? And how real is it? What, like physically, how long does generational trauma actually sustain itself biologically in our bodies? So I'll give you an example right now. I can't handle quiet, peaceful life because I have so gotten used to a very high level of adrenaline and cortisol and chaos. So even when I try, I can't. So I thrive in emergencies. When things happen, everyone turns to Suhein because I know how to handle it. So that's part of generational trauma as well, because it's the survivor in me. I know what to do and I love it. Okay. So in the therapist's chair, basically all of the traumas get unraveled. And then it goes to the next level and the next level and the next level to discover that trauma actually, generational trauma actually sits 4 generations. And now that's been scientifically proven. So, you know, there was a study, I'm making up the numbers, but basically this is what happened. They took 50 mice. Of the 50 mice, they took 25 of them and exposed them to electrical shocks that were very uncomfortable, but at the same time, the smell of roses.
Ay,
So when they stopped electrically shooting them,
right.
they would have them smell roses
And still
and they would still have the trauma effect.
right.
Their babies had the same reaction of cortisol, adrenaline shooting up. Second generation, third generation to the fourth generation, it lasted, where that reaction system was built in through 4 generations. So the book goes back in time to discover all this, but at the same time discovers the mythology. And, you know, we were taught warrior women. Amazons. Let our fame be great. How? Why? It was because of our upholding of our code of honor. And our code of honor encompassed courage, the ability to honor others before ourselves, whether they're their enemy or not. And this is similar, if you remember, in Japan, they had the samurais. And the samurai would also honor their enemies. And there's strict protocols in battles. Now, and I have the book for that. It's in my other library. Now it has been proven by the scholars that have actually written these, and these are all written by American scholars, you know, irrefutable at this point. Archaeologists that found our bones in the tombs, like DNA sampling, like this is now beyond a doubt we existed. No one can deny us our existence anymore. And that's why I'm writing this book, because it's so relevant and timely. Because all of these academics have written the books, but no one has written a novel to put it in a way that it can be marketable. So I have taken all of this research, the Nart sagas, the mythologicals, taken them, and I'm recycling them into this novel that allows for the heroine, who's modern day,
Yes.
in the therapist's chair, go back and discover all of this.
It'll be a movie too. It will. It will be a movie. At least one.
Okay, so we're going to have this recorded, and when it does, you're going to be the first one that calls it.
There you go. There you
You're going
go.
to be able to be like, Merle said it on March 25th, 2024.
So I think we've been pretty thorough here, and it's clear where your passion is. And I mean, you know very well, follow your passion. So, yes, definitely not just
Oh,
a book. It'll be a movie.
but Merle, it's so scary. It's so scary. I know. It's scary, let me tell you, because so much depends on it that if I do anything wrong, I dishonor everybody.
No, no, no. So may I offer to you that it is not your job to do it perfectly. It is your job to do it. Whatever, when you come from a heart of honor, you can't help but do an honorable job. Now that I want to explain to you is entirely different from perfect. You're writing about a woman. That woman isn't perfect. And it is your job as the author to see her imperfections and accept them and understand that it comes from generations. So when it comes from you with, oh my God, all this background, I mean, you've certainly done your research. And when it comes from such a full heart, it has to be fabulous. You may not find it perfect. You'll be saying, oh, blah, 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 but nobody else will. Or everybody else will. This person will have their story. That person will have that story. Trust me. Trust me. You just have that dagger in your hand and go downstairs.
Is this how we're going to end this podcast? Me bawling. Yeah,
Hey,
a lecture
these
about
great
courage. I'm
interviews.
like scared shitless about writing this book.
Oh, so then let this interview be your let me share some of the beautiful things that your father gave to you. I mean, that is to me the most touching story. And a- and I would like to empower you. Not saying, oh, it's going to be all right. Let me empower you. You have you have the dagger. Exactly.
No, no, the pen
That's
is
right.
stronger.
It's your pen. The pen is mightier than the sword. How there you go. There you go. That's
You got me.
awesome. Awesome. I'm going to end this now. And we'll see how it all works out, but okay. So I'm thanking everybody for listening to Merle's Pearls of Business Wisdom with me, your host, Merle M. Singer, the relationship miracle worker. Here's the important thing. You can find this episode and all past episodes on relationship miracle worker .com/podcast or on Spotify, Apple, wherever, any of the platforms, and ultimately on YouTube. And
Thank you.
make sure to see this. Make sure to listen to it because it's I am honored. This has been beautiful. Yes, thank you.
Blowing kisses, it's all I can do.
Yes, yes. You got the pen. I'm so excited.